Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori and today is a really fun video. So in 2024 I have read 156 books so far. It is December 21st, so probably won't read much more than that. Today I thought it would be fun to sit down and share with you guys my 24 favorites of 2024. Got water, we can stay hydrated, now we're good to go. So these books are my 24 favorites that I read in 2024. Does not mean they were published in 2024. These are also my favorites. So this is mostly based on vibes and not like the best writing or the most unique. I'm not a writer, I go off vibes. So technically there are a few more than 24 books because I'm counting anything in a series or an interconnected series as just one book. So sue me, whatever. Anyways, to make this a little easier, I did break this down into genre. So let's get started before I yap too much and my camera dies, because that's really annoying and it takes forever to charge. So we're starting with fantasy. First up, we have The House of Flame and Shadow by Sarah J. Maas. This is the Crescent City series, an urban fantasy following Bryce Quinlan, who is a half-fae in a world filled with fairies, angels, werewolves, and more. It's a very modern fantasy and there's a lot going on, tons of characters to follow, and I love the world building that happens in this series, specifically this book. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but it was a really good one for me. I could not put it down. I really enjoyed it, gave it 5 stars, so I can't really say much more than that without spoiling it, but this is definitely one of my top reads of the year. Next up in fantasy is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This book was a charming mix of cozy fantasy and adventure. We're following Emily Wilde, a socially awkward professor, as she unravels the secrets of fairies while navigating an unexpected friendship and has a touch of romance as well. I really enjoyed the cozy vibes that this book gave off. It was really like a fun read. It was magical. It was just an overall good time. I really enjoyed the entire thing and I need to read the second one soon. Next up, we do have a trilogy, but the first 2 books are the only ones that are out right now. So Darkwater Daughter and Black Tide Sun by H.M. Long. This is a pirate fantasy following Mary Firth, a storm singer who has the power to control the weather with her voice. We follow Mary as she teams up with a pirate hunter to confront a deathless pirate on the high seas. I loved this book. It is so unique. It is definitely an epic fantasy. It is not like romantasy. There's really barely a thread of romance in this book. It is an expansive world that is filled with tons of lore that I do not even know how someone would come up with any of this. And it is one of the most unique magic systems that I have seen in a book. So I'm really looking forward to the 3rd book coming out next year. I loved it. I'm already yapping too much. Next up, and still in fantasy, is The Foxglove King by Hannah Whitten. This book is a gothic fantasy following Lore, a young woman with the very dangerous and illegal power of death magic. We follow her as she is coerced into the king's court to investigate mysterious village deaths. She has to navigate a treacherous world of politics, religion, and forbidden romance. This book was so immersive. I remember I stayed up really late to read this, which I have not done in forever. Honestly, like 10 years. So I know that it's a good book if I stay up to read it. And I loved the fact that we were in a royal court, the politics, but also the romance was just super swoon-worthy. I need to read the 2nd book of this one because I really enjoyed it. Next up, we have A Feather So Black by Lyra Celine. This is an amazing book. I am in love. Okay. This is a retelling of Swan Lake blended with Norse mythology and gothic fantasy. We are following Fia, who is a changeling that was raised and trained by the High Queen, as Fia embarks on a dangerous journey to save the princess from the Fae in the Fae world. Listen up. This is one of my new all-time favorite series. I read the 2nd book thanks to NetGalley and Lyra Celine. It comes out in January. 5 stars, no notes. I am obsessed with this and I'm impatiently waiting on the 3rd book because I love the characters, I love the magic system, I love everything. I fear I will be very annoying for how much I will talk about this book, the 2nd book, and the 3rd book. So, read it. After that, we have the Caraval trilogy. I am including all 3 books in this, but I didn't get them all down. So the Caraval trilogy follows two sisters, Scarlet and Tella, as they become entangled in a magical, high-stakes game of illusion and deception, where nothing is as it seems and the prize could change their lives forever. This is YA fantasy at its absolute best. Stephanie Garber creates such a magical atmosphere. This felt to me the way that the best fairy tales felt when I was younger, like the world of losing yourself in the world of fairy tales. That is how this whole series felt to me. I really loved the second one. I think that was my favorite. That one's legendary. Just absolute 5-star series. And I do not have a copy of this one, but I will put the graphic here for all the ones I don't have a copy of. That's what I'll do. Next up, we have Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. This is a dark fantasy romance where Ophelia, who is a necromancer, enters a deadly competition within a haunted mansion to save her sister, and in order to save her, she may have to join forces with an unlikely ally. The romance, the high-stakes competition, the Southern Gothic feel to it, ate it up. I loved it. I was immersed from almost the very beginning. I flew through the book, loved it, 5 stars. I think that this one felt like an adult, dark version of Caraval, and I really loved it. I really loved the competition aspect of these books, so that was Phantasma. So that was it for fantasy, and now we are moving on to mystery thrillers, which I just kind of combined together into one genre. First up in mystery thriller is the Three Pines series by Louise Penny. The first one is Still Life. This whole series follows Chief Inspector Armand Gamache as he solves complex murder mysteries in a charming and yet mysterious small village in Quebec. Each book follows a different case, but the character development and overarching story make these a series to definitely read in order. Absolutely. You have to, because you will be really confused if you don't. I have read 10 of these this year. 10 of the 156 books that I read were Louise Penny, if that tells you anything. I fell in love. She just released book 19 this year, and I'm slowly making my way through this series, so I am really enjoying it. It is perfect for anyone who enjoys police procedurals, mysteries, and the gossip of a small town. 10 out of 10. Next up, we have Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera, specifically audiobook format. Listen for the Lie follows Lucy Chase, who is haunted by the unsolved murder of her best friend, Savvy Harper. It has been 5 years since the murder, and a true crime podcast is reigniting public suspicion of Lucy. Again, I listened to this on audio, and that is definitely the way I would recommend it. I don't think that it would have grabbed me quite as well as it did if it wasn't on audio. The full cast narration really made this something that I lost myself in, and I just kept finding more chores to do around the house to keep listening to it, and that is how you know that I'm obsessed. Because why would I do chores other than that? After that, we have Every Time I Go on Vacation, Someone Dies by Catherine Mack. I loved this book. This book follows best-selling author Eleanor Dash, who, while on an Italian book tour, becomes entangled in a real-life murder mystery that starts to mirror the plots of her novels. This was such a fun read. It was really pretty unique in the way that it does blend the mystery but also comedic humor. I really loved it. It balanced it perfectly. I have not really read another book that is like this because it is not cheesy, it's not annoying, it is just a very witty book. Very witty characters, and it was a lot of fun. I can't wait to read the next one that comes out next year. Then we have The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James, a chilling supernatural mystery that alternates between the past and the present, as Carly, who is our female main character, investigates the decades-old disappearance of her aunt while uncovering eerie secrets about a haunted motel. I really enjoyed the pacing of this. I really loved both of our timelines, which is not always the case for me. Usually I will get into something and kind of want to only be reading about one timeline, but I enjoyed both of these. I was really invested in both timelines. I can't say too much more without kind of ruining part of it, so just kind of go in blind, and it was one of my favorite thrillers for sure of the year. We are on to our next genre, and we are in romance. First up in romance, we have The Rom-Commers by Katherine Center. In The Rom-Commers, Emma Wheeler, an aspiring screenwriter, who put her dreams on hold to care for her father, gets the chance to help famous screenwriter Charlie Yates fix his terrible romantic comedy script. However, when she gets there, Charlie is super grumpy and does not think he needs help at all on this romantic comedy script. The personal growth in this was incredible. It's heartfelt, it's vulnerable, it is filled with character growth that honestly just felt very real, and it earned a very special place in my heart also. The pink edges. I really loved this one. These characters will stay with me for a long time. Next up, we actually have another one by Katherine Center. We have The Bodyguard. In The Bodyguard, Hannah Brooks is a bodyguard who is hired to protect A-list actor Jack Stapleton from an anonymous stalker. To keep the threat and danger kind of secret from his parents because he does not want them to know that he's in danger, they fake a romance. This really flips the bodyguard trope on its head by making Hannah the bodyguard and Jack the one who needs protecting. This is just another one by Katherine Center that is fluffy and fun, but also has so many deep topics and characters that really end up feeling real by the end. And this one here cemented her as an auto-buy author in the future for me. Next up, we have one of my absolute favorites of the year. We have Happy Place by Emily Henry. This story follows longtime couple Harriet and Wynne, who pretend to still be together during a vacation with their friends, despite the fact that they secretly broke up months before. As they navigate the complex dynamics of their past relationship, they confront their feelings and what they really want for the future. This book met me exactly where I was. I related to the characters so much, it instantly became one of my all-time favorite books. I will never stop talking about this. The second chance romance was so incredibly sweet. The way that Emily Henry puts into words the exact feeling of how friendships change as you grow up and the bittersweet feeling that brings was maybe my favorite part of this book. Definitely one of the reasons that this will be an all-time favorite for a long time to come. Still in romance, we have One Last Shot by Betty K. Wett. I do not know if I'm pronouncing that wrong, so sorry if I am. I also have this beautiful edition of this book by Afterlight. Incredible. So this book follows former childhood sweethearts, Emerson, who is a supermodel, and Theo, who is a photographer. They reunite after a decade when Emerson is reminded of a promise they made to marry each other at 30 if they hadn't already married someone else. This is set on the Italian coastline, and the imagery is absolutely beautiful and stunning, and our characters really do confront their past trauma, and they have undeniable chemistry that is definitely still there. I absolutely adore second chance romance if it's done right, and this one was absolutely done right. It's heartfelt. I might have cried during it. I adored it. I adore this edition. Just a really good one. Next up, we have the entire Rebel Blue Ranch series by Lila Sage. These are small town cowboy romances that I adore with my entire heart. Each one of these has mental health representation, which I absolutely love. And the way that Lila Sage creates these characters, it's incredible. You could read these in any order, but I do recommend reading them in the correct order because you'll spoil some things for yourself if you don't. So I'm just going to go over tropes. I'm not going to go over the entire plot of all of these. Done and Dusted is a brother's best friend trope. It's also a best friend's little sister trope. Swift and Saddled is a Swift and Saddled is a workplace romance. And Lost and Lassoed is an enemies or nemesis to lovers. My heart. After that, we have The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. This book follows Delphi Bookham, who dies pretty humorously by choking on a frozen hamburger. She ends up in the afterlife with a quirky afterlife therapist. She's given a second chance at life if she can find her true love and convince him to kiss her within 10 days. Otherwise, she is stuck in the afterlife forever. This is magical realism. It was very unique. I loved it. There were really very touching scenes that I didn't expect to be in this, and it actually was a little bit of a tearjerker at the end. I loved the side characters almost as much as I loved the main characters, and it was just really a fantastic read overall. After that, we have Wild Love by Elsie Silver. She captured my heart with this, and I've already talked about it on here, but it is a small town romance. It has the billionaire trope, and it has the best friend's little sister trope. The banter that she creates in this, the emails, anything with a text, a letter, an email, whatever, I'm for it, I'm here. And the banter and the emails in this one were just chef's kiss, amazing. I've already talked about it, so I am gonna try not to sound like a broken record. All right, we're moving on. We are to historical fiction. First up in historical fiction is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. We are following Elizabeth Zott, a brilliant chemist in the 1960s. She is navigating the challenges of a male-dominated field. She unexpectedly becomes the host of a very popular cooking show where she uses her platform to teach science, defy expectations, and challenge social norms about women's roles. This book made me laugh, it made me cry, it made me want to throw it across the room with anger at points, but I also loved every second of this. It had a huge impact on me, and I think about it all the time. I loved these characters. Truly a story that I don't think will ever leave me. Next up, we have Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is another story that I think about all the time. It follows the rise and fall of a 1970s rock band. The way this is told is using interviews with the band members, their family members, people who worked in the industry, etc., etc. The story centers on Daisy Jones, a free-spirited, wild musician, and Billy, who is the lead singer of the Six. This book is complicated, it's beautiful, and it made me bawl like a baby. I can't get over how unique it was and how it absolutely captured my heart, and just, I think about it all the time. And then we have another one that I think about all the time. Good Lord, I apparently need to read more historical fiction because all three of these I think about constantly. They live rent-free in my head. The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. This is a magical realism novel centered around June Farrow. Clearly. June is burdened by a family curse that has affected all of the Farrow women for generations. All the Farrow women slowly go mad. They start to talk to things that are not there, they start to see things that are not there, etc. June is scared because she is already starting to show signs of this madness, which normally does not happen until much later. She ends up stumbling upon some hidden truths about her family's past, and she has to uncover the entire thing. I can't really tell you much more than that without ruining it. I went in blind. I recommend you do the same because it was much more magical that way. This book is so lyrical, so atmospheric. The quotes in here are to absolutely die for. The love story that's in here, the mystery, you need to read it. Just trust me. All right, we're moving on to our next genre. We are moving on to some horror novels. First up is We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kleber. I am not sure if I'm saying that right either. So this story follows Eve and Charlie, a young couple who purchase a fixer-upper in a very picturesque neighborhood. Their plans are very quickly disrupted when a family claiming to have lived there years ago visits, and their visit leads to unsettling events that blur the line between reality and delusion. This is by far the most unique book that I've read this year. Like, absolutely, without a doubt. It was super creepy, it was eerie, and it's another one, honestly, that I still think about. It lives in my head rent-free still. I just need you to read it, just kind of knowing that. It's just one of the most unique novels that I have read. This is definitely one of the few horror books that I still think about to this day. Most of them I kind of don't, but this one, I do. Every now and then I go down a Google rabbit hole about it, and that's why you should read it. Next up in horror, we have The September House by Carissa Orlando. This book is following Margaret, who moves into a charming old house. Apparently both of my horror books follow moving into a new house. Anyways, we follow Margaret, who is moving into a charming old house in a small neighborhood, only to find out that it's haunted by mysterious forces. As strange events unfold, Margaret must unravel the secrets of the house before it is too late. This was a really fun read. I was invested pretty much from the very beginning. It kind of drops you right in. I enjoyed the ride it took us on, and the ending was done really well. I was afraid that it wouldn't be, but it was. So, this was a really good one. And now we are on to our last genre, and actually our last book as well. So number 24 of 2024 is The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton. I actually had no idea what genre to put this in because it is a genre blend. It blends thriller, mystery, post-apocalyptic, so I guess dystopian, I don't really know. This story is set in a post-apocalyptic world where a deadly fog has actually decimated humanity, except one island. We follow Emery, a villager who wakes up to find that one of the island's leaders has been murdered. Her death causes the system keeping the fog at bay to fail. They have 48 hours to figure out who did it before the fog engulfs the island. So in this book, there is also an omnipresent AI that talks to the villagers in their head 24/7, which really brought another level of uniqueness, and this story was already unique. This was just a really fun read. I enjoyed playing along as a detective with Emery as she tries to figure it out, and some of the other villagers as well. I did not guess the ending of this one, for sure, I did not. Again, it is a genre blend, so if anything about this sounds good to you, then just go read it, because it was really good. Alright, and there you have it. Those are my 24 favorite books that I've read in 2024. If you made it all the way through and wanted to let me know that you were here, put a robot emoji down for the last book that we talked about. Let me know if you've read any of these and what your thoughts are if you have. And also, what are your favorite books from this year? What's your #1 favorite? Should I pick it up? Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe for more book content coming very soon. See you later.